Hey guys, it's Reeve here with Reeve Knives, and I'm just going to show you how to take apart, clean, and reassemble your Impinda. We have one of our production Impindas right here. It's our slip joint knife, basically a classic spring lock on the back. I'll show you real quick how to take it apart. So you'll start with the pivot here. This is a 5/64 inch standard Allen key. This comes in the box. If you lose yours, you can easily find one. See it kind of back out there a little bit, and then push that forward. What's kind of cool about our pivot here is we have what I call a keyed feature, which you can see right here is kind of a flat in the recess of the handle and a flat receiving feature on the inside of the pivot. Keeps the pivot from spinning. And so from here, we'll back the pivot completely out, and now the blade's free. You slide the blade out, set that aside for a second, and you can take the body screws off. Now when we clean the knives before they go in the box, we use a pretty simple method. Basically anything that is sandblasted, we'll use WD-40. And then when it comes to polished parts, tumbled parts where they really need to look clean, we use lacquer thinner, but you could use Windex or something like that, like a degreaser of some sort. You could use simple green if you really need to give it a scrub down. I'd say don't use an abrasive like Flitz polish or something like that. So you can pull all that out and give it a good clean. Now with another little feature with the Impinda is the washers have little pockets, little recesses. You can go in there and clean all that out. We do give a microfiber cloth in the box as well, so you can use that to clean. Just give the washers a nice little wipe without bending them or pinching them at all. Set those aside, and then give the blade a nice clean. You're gonna wanna make sure that the back, the tang of the blade here, because that's a critical feature, it interfaces with the spring, that's nice and clean, and then clean the pivot as well. Just get a corner in there. So set that guy aside here, and then clean the recurve underneath the spring here. Because like I said, that puts a lot of pressure on the tang of the blade as it cycles through. Another one that I actually do like to give a quick clean to is the pivot hardware. Just make sure that's nice and clean. All right, so from here, we'll start with the back handle. From the factory, we always put the pins in through the back and screws in through the front. In theory, it should work the other way around as well, but this is what we do. Put the spring on, you can take your stop pin, make sure that that guy's in there. And then this is where there's a nice little trick with the fluorinated grease. What I like to do is just take 3 little dots, look at your washers, use the shinier side and have that go in towards the blade. So the rougher side to the back, it'll just hold it. Set the washer in the recess, give it a little bit of a spin, and it'll stick in there nicely. So that'll hold the washer from falling. Take your pivot, put that guy in. And then here's a little trick for putting the blade back in with the spring. So stick the blade on the pivot, and then this back corner, you're gonna kind of push down and use to kick the spring out of the way, and it should all snap together nicely. Wipe any excess grease out. And just make sure that the washer's sitting flat and flush, and the same thing with the blade. So that's the kind of pre-assembly over there on the back side, and then the handle in the front will do the same thing with the washer. A little bit there. Like we always say with the grease, less is more. You really don't need a lot. And then you can do a little bit around the pivot. And that should all snap together nicely there. Put the body screws in. Nice and tight there. You don't have to over tighten, just come down to a nice snug. Now this is what Loctite calls their 222 MS Threadlocker. It's really nice to have this because it can help you get the fit that you really like, the action that you really like. It just helps the pivot from working itself apart. So any of our 2-piece pivot knives have this. Now again, less is more. You really only need a tiny bit towards the end of the threads, because as you screw it in, it's gonna move that Loctite back up in there. You don't wanna put a whole bunch in there, otherwise it binds up when you wanna go take it apart next time. Screw the male pivot in a little ways, but not too far. And this is where that keyed feature that I talked about earlier really comes into play. You're gonna eyeball line that up, just generally put it towards the front, and it should drop in nice and flush, and it'll put the pivot out towards the back, and then you just tighten it in to your desired tightness, which there should be a nice little sweet spot as it gets snug that you shouldn't have any side to side play, but still have a very nice smooth action. And there you have it. That's a nice, clean Impinda.